Greetings, YouTube. I found myself thinking about the undead. And not just your garden variety zombies and skeletons, or the ghouls that are raiding the nearby cemetery. No, I'm talking about the massed armies that are trying to, overwhelm the world and enslave all of humanity, or just wipe out all of life. Um, I thought of the four judges of the apocalypse from Judge Dredd, who decided that the best way to keep the law of the land is to kill everyone because dead people don't break laws. With logic like that, you can't go wrong. Um, and I realized that I'm really tired of the unlife or the unmaker or what have you wants to take all life out. Because not only do I find it boring, but I find it illogical. Because without the living, there are no undead. Just like if you want a hamburger, you've got to have a cow first. Well, undead come from us. And so it really makes sense for the undead to make sure that there are living people. So, how does the enterprising undead lord of some variety that would like to gain power, how can he acquire that without risking destroying his undead armies? Because let's face it, the humans are going to fight back, or the living people are going to fight back, and you're going to end up with a lot of undead people, destroyed undead people. So it doesn't help that Death Lord a great deal if all of his undead are destroyed in his efforts to destroy all life. So if his goal is to increase the number of undead under his command, a laudable goal, I guess. Some people collect money just because they like big numbers. So how could the enterprising Death Lord pull that off? Multi-level marketing. What do I mean by that? By selling undeath as an appealing option. Now, multi-level marketing works because people want something for nothing. They want to get the big deal. They want the bigger, better deal, and they want to get it in a manner that makes them think that they're smarter than the other guy, that they're on the top of the heap, they're winning, their strategy is good, they have this locked down, even though they're being fleeced by the people higher up in that scheme. So how about you sell undeath as stability? Life is chaotic. Undeath is stable. Undeath is dependable. It's reliable. You know where you stand when you become an undead. Now, the low-level folks in this, who don't invest themselves fully into it, will probably end up as skeletons and zombies. Okay? But the ones that move up within the structure that the Death Lord has created, the middle management types, they can end up as ghouls. And if, say, the Death Lord is really smart, he'll come up with the means of zombification that preserves the general appearance of the person. So yes, they will be undead, but they will look very much like they do now. And they will be able to preserve that look for a very long time. Say, by continuing to serve the Death Lord, and he's doing whatever he needs to do to preserve that look. So maybe you start as a skeleton, they put the flesh back on, you become now you look like your old self, and maybe you move up the scale. Maybe you move up to, cannibalistic zombies. Maybe you move up to like a white or something similar. Maybe, probably corporeal, but you could have the same kind of powers and things. Just attach it to a wraith, actually. Whites actually have physical forms. But wraiths, attach it to a physical form. Move them up to, let's say, vampires. Maybe you throw the juju zombies in there. The point is, you could have all kinds of levels, and you're encouraging the living to join your organization. We won't call it a cult now. Your organization, because it's stable. I can guarantee that you will exist forever. Just come join us. Now that's interesting. How do the PCs, how do the positive priests out there fight against the temptation, if they can be convinced that if they contribute enough, they'll go right to the nice looking zombie route and they'll never have to do it. Or if they're really high up socially and they've ingested enough of their efforts and times and they've recruited enough people before it's time for them to shuffle off their living coil, they get to be a vampire right off the bat. They look beautiful forever. We're going to assume it's not the Nosferatu style of vampire. Unless somebody wants that. There are goths out there that might dig that look. So that's interesting. That's not something that's bog standard out of every fantasy campaign that you've ever encountered. This is different. This is temptation, and it actually pays off. Laura K. Hamilton had something like this in her novels, and her world building is absolutely absurd. But they actually had a vampire church, and if you were a devout member, they would turn you into a vampire, so you live forever. And they actually, they encouraged people, but you had to spend your time working your way into the thing before you could achieve that level. Very similar idea. But this, I'm trying to expand it, make it more universal. Not necessarily all the vampires, because again, that rolls back into the whole how do you feed a large group of vampires. You know what I mean? So yeah, you need to keep the vampires to a minimum. So yeah, you've got your huge, vast army of dead. The Death Lord can say, I control X number of things. I'm wonderful. I have power. And he does, or she does, or it does, depending how the Death Lord perceives themselves. So yes, now that to me sounds interesting. So I'm asking you folks, how would you use this idea? Would you change it? Would you ignore it? Would you run with it? How do you think it could be more detailed, or do you think it needs to be streamlined? Let's talk about marketing the undead.